And good morning to those in the viewing public and to all of you in the gallery. Welcome to this Your House session. I now call this third regular session to order. Please rise for a moment of silence, and may I ask that we keep our colleague, Representative Ed Probst, and his family in our prayers, and also for world peace. Thank you, members. I now recognize the clerk to please call the roll.
Representative Adda. Representative Tato.
Present.
Representative Selena Babalta. Representative Sheila Babalta.
Present.
Representative Joel Komatsu.
Yeah.
Representative Vicente Komatsu.
Present.
Representative Damapan. Representative Flores.
Present.
Representative Guerrero. Representative Lizama.
Present.
Representative Magofnia.
Gaiget.
Representative Mangalonia.
Present.
Representative Probst. Representative Christina Sablan. Representative John Paul Sablan.
Mr. Gap.
Representative San Nicolas.
Present.
Representative Staffler.
Present.
Mr. Speaker.
Present.
Representative Yang Tamay.
Nangi.
Representative Yumo. Mr. Speaker, 60 members are present and 4 members are absent.
Thank you, Clerk. With 16 members present, this constitutes a quorum for today's session. And to take note that Floor Leader Ralph Yumo, Representatives Selena Babalta, and Angel Demapan, and Christina Sablan are hereby excused for today's session. Thank you. And in the absence of Floor Leader Yumo, I hereby appoint Representative John Paul Sablan to serve as our Floor Leader Pro Tem for today's proceedings. Thank you, members. We now move down to public comments, item number 2, and the floor is open for public comments. Please keep your comments related to the agenda, and you have 3 minutes. Please state your name and the organization or entity that you represent. Thank you. Okay, it looks like we have no public comments this morning. We now move down to item 3, adoption of journals, and I recognize the clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Under item 3, there's one item, second day, third regular session journal dated February 22nd, 2022.
Thank you, clerk. I now recognize the floor leader to make the motion to adopt the journal.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. At this time, I make a motion that we adopt second day, third regular session journal dated February 22, 2022. So move.
Second.
A motion has been made to adopt second day, third regular session journal dated February 22nd, 2022, and has been seconded. Any discussions? Ready? All in favor to adopt the journal, please say aye. All opposed, please say nay. The ayes have it. The journal is hereby adopted. Thank you, members. We now move down to item number 4, and I recognize Representative Corina Magofnia.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and good morning. Test, okay. Formally introducing House Bill 22-97 to require legislative appropriation for all non-local secured funds allocated for the Commonwealth of the Northern Mariana Islands and for other purposes. Authored by myself and co-sponsored by Floor Leader Ralph Yumo and Representative Leila Staffler. I invite all others to co-sponsor if you're interested. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Representative Magofnia. House Bill 22-97 will be referred to the Committee on Ways and Means. We have no further House bills for introductions. We now move down to House local bills, and I recognize Representative Patrick San Nicolas.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This is to officially introduce House Local Bill number 22-30 to make limited appropriations for the personnel and operation of Tinian Casino Gaming Control Commission for fiscal year 2022 pursuant to 10 CMC subsection 2581, Tinian Local Law 21-9, and 1 CMC subsection 1405A, Public 11-17. This is pre-filed by myself. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Representative San Nicolas. With no further House local bills and no House legislative initiatives, we move down to item number 5, introduction of resolutions. We have none under House resolutions, none under House joint resolutions. Under House commemorative resolutions, I recognize Representative Denita Yangtamay. Oh, that's right. Okay. I almost said that we have technical difficulties. Representative Yangtamay forgot her extra pair of eyes, so she would like if any of the other co-sponsors would like to read Representative Sheila Babalta.
It is my pleasure. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Formally introducing House Commemorative Resolution 22-9 to congratulate and honor all the women in the Commonwealth as we celebrate their contributions and achievements during the month of March 2022, proclaimed as CNMI Women's Month, and March 8th as International Women's Day. Pre-filed and authored by Rep. Denita Kaipat Yangtamay and co-sponsored by several others. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. And if there's no objection, Chairwoman Yangtamay, if we can introduce this as a whole. No objection. Okay. Thank you, members. Thank you, Rep. Yangtamay. Commemorative Resolution number 22-9 is hereby introduced as a whole of the committee and will be placed on today's resolution calendar for action. Next, Commemorative Resolution number 22-10. I'd like to recognize myself to honor and commend Mr. David Mangarero Sablan for his selfless dedication and countless contributions to the Commonwealth of the Northern Mariana Islands. And if there's no objection, I'd like this commemorative resolution to also be introduced as a whole of the committee. All right, thank you, colleagues. Thank you, members, and it will be placed on today's calendar for action. We have none under House concurrent resolutions. We now move down to item number 6, messages from the governor, and I recognize the clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On item 6, messages from the governor, we have Governor's Communication 22112 through 22119.
Thank you, clerk. Any discussions under governor's communications? Recognize the Vice Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Just wanted to thank the governor for signing House Bill 22-26 HD1 into law and is now Public Law 22-14 under Governor's Communication 22-114. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Vice Speaker. And with no further discussion, I'd like to refer Governor's Communications 22-115, 22-115 to the Committee of PUTC and JGO, along with Governor's Communication 22-116 to the same committees. Thank you. Without any further discussions, we go down to item number 7, Senate Communications. And I would like to recognize, I recognize the clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Under item 7, Senate Communications, we have Senate Communication 22-77 through 22-88.
Thank you, clerk. I now recognize the floor leader for the proper motion to accept Senate Communications. Floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. At this time, I make a motion that we accept Senate Communications 22-77 all through 22-88 88. So move.
Thank you, floor leader. A motion has been made by the floor leader to accept Senate communications and has been seconded. Any discussions on the floor? Ready? Okay.
Mr.
Oh, I
Speaker.
recognize Representative Patrick San Nicolas.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. For Senate Communication 22-84, transmitting for House action for Senate Joint Resolution number 22-9, entitled Approving the Governor's Request to create a new program and business unit for retiree bonus and to reprogram a $2.6 million from within the executive branch for the payment of retirees. If I may, Mr. Speaker, continue. I know, Mr. Speaker, that it is clear that both houses, the Senate and the House, support the retirees bonus. This issue is legal method both parties can agree on, and also which is the fastest method, which since the retirees have been waiting for over so many months. The approachment of the House is through an appropriation that relocates the hot funds. As stated by the mayor, the mayor of Tinian, which I agree with, the relocation of hot funds will have a devastating effect on the municipality of Tinian and the tourist industry. Therefore, I cannot support the appropriation. Given that there's a faster alternative. Also, an appropriation will obviously require the approval of the House, Senate, and Governor, and this will definitely be a longer method for the bonus to be disbursed. The Senate resolution was reviewed and recommended by the retirement trustee, Attorney General, and the Senate Legal Counsel, as stated by the Secretary of Finance. And it is the fastest method because the House approved the Senate resolution. The governor will be able to pay the retirees. It is obvious that these claims by the majority of the House members. The Senate resolution is insufficient as funds cannot be reprogrammed to unfunded account. But according to the Planning and Budgeting Act and to all legal reviews, this authority is given through a joint resolution. Mr. Speaker and members, therefore, when the House approved the Senate resolution, then both houses give the governor the authority to create a new business unit for the retirees bonus and the authority reprogram funds into the account to pay the bonuses. And this has been thoroughly vetted out by the Attorney General and has legal sufficient. Therefore, Mr. Speaker and members, I support the Senate resolution and will vote yes to support the resolution to enable the governor to process the retirees. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I yield.
Thank you, Representative San Nicolas. Any more for further discussion? I recognize the Vice Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you, Representative San Nicolas, for your message on Senate Communication 22-84. I believe the mayor's position when he had mentioned during the Senate session in Tinian that the House version under 2291 was touching the money under hot tax for MVA. That's misinformation. That's the general appropriations under 22-8 that we appropriated how we appropriate to MVA. The hot tax is an outside source, It's a direct funding source to MVA through the 5% of the hotel occupancy tax. They take 5% of the 15% of the hotel occupancy tax. That's a direct fund to their account. We don't appropriate those funds. Those are unlimited, are without fiscal year limitation funds. Those go directly to MVA through Public Law 18-2. It's not the Appropriations Act that gives the HUD tax to MVA. MVA's $1 million plus that they got under 22-8 is a direct appropriation from the general fund. And speaking of the resolution 22-9 and 22-4 that the Senate had adopted, Senate Joint Resolution 22-4 and 22-9, they're citing Senate Joint Resolution 19-4. Senate Joint Resolution 19-4 was giving the governor an additional 50% reprogramming authority. During that fiscal year, we gave the governor 50% reprogramming authority. Senate Joint Resolution 19-4 was giving him the additional 50 to give the 100% reprogramming authority for the remainder of that fiscal year. If you notice that joint resolution was adopted on September 25th of that fiscal year, which would essentially only give 5 days of 100% reprogramming authority. And the 100% reprogramming authority was to authorize the governor to pay for the CNMI's 10% cost share of Typhoon Sodalor. That's the reason why Senate Joint Resolution 19-4 was adopted. It wasn't creating another brand new business unit that's unfunded. Failure to fund a business unit under the Appropriations Act or to run appropriations, you can't put money into those accounts. It's a stagnant, it's a dead account. There's zero function to that account. Failure to have a dollar figure in there through an appropriations legislation. And the only way that can happen is through the House. That's the reason why we passed 2291 unanimously in this body. We also rejected the amendments made by the Senate on 22-91 SS1. And then we created the special committees. The conference committee as appointed by the Speaker. The Planning and Budgeting Act, if you look at 7204 A2, it reads, no funds may be reprogrammed to any account which has been zero funded by the legislature or to any account for which the legislature has not made an appropriation. We don't have a retiree bonus business unit. We don't have a retiree bonus account. Therefore, we can't do it by a joint resolution. We have to do it by appropriation. And if you look at the screen, the next sentence under 7402 A2, it says any person who reprograms government funds or knowingly receives reprogrammed funds in contravention of this subsection shall be held personally liable for the amount of the reprogram accounts. So we're going to be reprogrammed 2.6 plus the 1% $1 million into this via joint resolution. We as members of the legislature, all 29 of us that vote on this this joint resolution, will be personally liable to pay back the $2.6 million plus the 1%. In addition to that, all the retirees that received $1,000 will be personally liable to pay back the $1,000. All we need, the only way this thing can be triggered by one individual. We got to remember that the settlement fund was created through a lawsuit of one individual to the retirement fund. If one person out there in the community feels that they should get $1,000 as well because the retirees got $1,000, they can file a lawsuit. And that would make each and every one of us here personally liable to pay back the 2.6 plus the 1% that we had agreed to appropriate. Plus, the retirees that received $1,000 would be obligated to pay back the $1,000. So let's just say that the joint resolution can create the business unit. Without a dollar figure in that business unit, it's not functional. And the Senate, they're well aware of that. They're very well versed in the budget process, and they know that if we unfund a business unit, we cannot utilize any of the funds. I mean, we can't use that business unit to trigger any action for it. And back to the hot tax, we are not touching the hot tax. Matter of fact, if you remember under the budget that we adopted or we passed and was signed into law 22-8, there's a class code number 61299 that has a total amount of $5,723,088 in that account that would be able to address the $2.6 million to backfill the monies that we're going to utilize under 2291 if we want to do the conference committee, or the 2295 that we have on bill calendar for action today. The opinion that the Secretary of Finance was utilizing in regards to the Attorney General's office, the Attorney General's opinion was reflective of the $88 million that we took out, that we got a loan from FEMA. Those monies were as flexible as possible, as anything can be flexible except for infrastructure. That's the only restriction for that $88 million. In the same message that the AG had sent to the SOF regarding the retirees bonus, he said that it's proper to have an appropriations bill rather than a joint resolution. The settlement fund, until we see a document from the settlement fund that states that it's okay to do, the settlement fund's not worried about whether the retirees get the bonuses, the $1,000 bonus. All they care about is to make sure that the central government pays the settlement fund for the costs it's going to take them to process this. So the 7402 is very clear that if we act on it, we can be personally liable to pay back the 2.6 plus the 1%. And the retirees, it's very clear under 7402 that if they receive the $1,000, they would have to pay back the $1,000 should someone file a lawsuit. Hot tax, we're not touching hot tax at all. Hot tax is a direct appropriation. It's a separate account from the general fund. So I beg to differ with the good mayor of Tinian. He's well versed of the budget process. He was a member of the House, and he made a lot of good appropriation legislation during his time. But the hot tax, definitely not touching the hot tax. And like I mentioned, under ARPA, 61299 has $5.7 million plus that can backfill the $2.6 million. And he can address this through the 25% reprogram authority that he has. Unfortunately, we have to create a business unit through an appropriations legislation to activate that business unit to be possible to move monies around. All we need is a dollar figure in there. Even $1, if we want to move $1 and allow the governor to 25%, we can do that. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Vice Speaker. Any further discussion? I recognize Representative Donald Manglonia.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you, Vice, for elaborating on that. But just to give the members an idea of what the Vice Speaker was mentioning in regards to establishing a business unit and putting in a dollar figure. If you look at page 4 of the Schedule A of the Public Law 22-08, or even the amendment that I did in House Bill 2295, there's differences in the accounts for organizations where you'll see a $0 or a $1 figure in either operations or personnel or both. Whenever there's a zero figure, that means that nothing can be spent out of that account. Nothing can be put into that account unless the House makes that appropriation. Anything with a $1 amount that you see on there is something that the governor can put into. And that's because this body appropriated that $1 amount that the Vice Speaker was talking about. And so even if we proceed with Senate Joint Resolution 2209, all it does is create a business unit that says retiree bonus, and then it'll be a zero for operations and a zero for personnel. Nothing can go into that account unless we appropriate the $1. So even if, again, we were to approve Senate Joint Resolution, we would have to go back and do another House bill to amend Public Law 22-08, which would put that $1 in there and then allow the governor to reprogram funds. But to skip the whole process and make it quicker, I pre-file or we adopt it or we place on calendar 2295, which already identified the business unit as well as the funds that will go into that business unit. And if this is really a concern for MVA, I'm surprised they're not here to argue for those funds. We've seen numerous times and we've heard from them, and we're also going. I believe Commerce and Tourism has a meeting with them on Thursday, which you can address the concerns. But all these funds that they've been receiving through ARPA, that's some of the stuff that they could use to help supplement their operational needs. I mean, they've spent millions on the trip program, and some of that I'm sure could be used to fund the operations in support of bringing back tourism into the CNMI. And so, with that, colleagues and Speaker, even if we were to act on the Senate Joint Resolution, we would still have to go back and appropriate. Therefore, I recommend that we act on 2295. 2291 is still on the table. I mean, the Senate is more than welcome to appoint the conferees, but in the spirit of trying to move forward and trying to speed up the process, we also have 2295, which I believe we'll be acting on today. And so I hope that clarifies and makes sense of what the Vice Speaker had mentioned with business units and $0 and $1. And so with that, I yield. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Manglona. I recognize Representative Lipon.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Right now, Mr. Speaker, my only interest is the retirees. I could care less about violation of the law. We've done that in the past. Other legislature in the past have done it. This is about the retiree. With the 2295 that's on the agenda in the calendar, how certain is it for us to act on it and the Senate is going to sit on it again while the retirees are suffering? It's going to be going back and forth. I think the most proper thing, Mr. Speaker, is both houses should sit down together and iron out their difference and push this out because the retirees are in need of this money. We're only here temporarily, but the retirees that deserve this money, as promised, I do understand that the business unit must be created. And I hear colleague Manglonia illustrated that budget should be, in all the budget, we never put a zero, we always put $1. I've been the chairman of, I've been part of the Ways and Means Committee, and that's always been the practice. But for now, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Speaker, and colleagues, we can sit here all day, but the retirees are in need of this money. It's something that we need to consider, because if we act on 2295 and it sits at the Senate, we're going to be doing the blaming game again. Are we ready to be doing that? I don't think so. I'm more concerned about the retirees, because that's money that is theirs. And they've provided their service already to this government for so many years. And I think that we need to act on this quickly. If meeting with the Senate counterpart is the most logical thing, then let it be. But we need to fast track this because we can't wait any longer and prolong this $1,000 bonus to the retirees, because some of them are in need of these funds. And I would appreciate, Mr. Speaker, that you push this quickly. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Lipon Guerrero. Any further discussions? Recognize Representative Patrick San Nicolas.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the Senate Joint Resolution 22-9 has been vetted out and been found legally sufficient. I don't know why that we cannot act on this. I don't know why. The Secretary of Finance, we need to call him in and we will listen to what they're going to say. Listen to the Secretary of Finance what he has to say about this. I yield, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Representative San Nicolas. Any further discussion? I recognize Vice Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you, Representative San Nicolas, Representative Lipon Guerrero. Thank you for mentioning that we should that it's important that both houses sit down, and 2291 actually has opened those doors. And I believe personally that if we do sit with the Senate, we should be done within like 15 to 30 minutes. If we've done it, this is not the budget, as you are well aware, Representative Lipon, that the budget process sometimes takes an hour, sometimes takes weeks to address the issue when it comes to conference committee. But this is a simple fix. We can actually address 2291 in the conference committee and replace it with another legislation that both houses agree on, and that should be pretty simple. I believe this the speaker had already appointed its conferees over a month ago, and we can address it. But the joint resolution, Representative San Nicolas, I beg to differ. 7402 is very clear of what the potential consequences might be. And we got to remind ourselves that the retirement or the settlement fund issue is not even a decade old. And if we're gonna allow somebody from the outside to file a civil lawsuit against us over $1,000 that we're arguing that we could address in 15, 30 minutes with those both houses, then let's do it the right way the first time. Let's not do it the wrong way the first time just to have put more consequences for the future generations that would have to face this issue down the road. And we shouldn't be setting a precedent that's not good for the people after us. The 7402 is very clear. Yes, you bring up that the Senate Legal Counsel had said that it's okay. Well, we have also the House Legal Counsels, and last I checked, each and every member here goes to our House Legal Counsels for legal sufficiency and legal review. And now we're going to discredit our House Legal Counsels for citing the statute that would actually affect us personally as members of this body if we act on this joint resolution. At the very least, they're doing is they're protecting us. They want us to do the right thing the first place. So we have 95 on bill calendar for action. We also have 91 that's ready for conference committee. Let's work on that, and we can sit with the Senate. I understand that there's another issue that's potentially hurting the ability to have a conference committee. But this conference committee, it will address only this legislation 2291 SS1, and that's it. We're not going to talk about any other issues. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Vice Speaker. Representative Leila Staffler.
Thank you, Speaker, and thank you, colleagues, for starting this very, very important discussion. I know we all voted in support of the retirees in the last several sessions, and there's no dispute that we all want and support what the retirees need, especially in these hard times. But we also cannot dispute the language of the law, which is very clear, especially with respect to personal liabilities. And I know that none of us would ever want to put our retirees in more harm's way with legal challenges like what happened once already that our great Vice Speaker has reminded us. And so I really feel that if the conference committee would not happen in 2291. We already have the solution in front of us with 2295. And so I look forward to having the chance to vote on that today, because that will be the right solution to make sure that we are following the letter of the law, because we should care about following the law. That is our only job, as they say. And in final comments, I'd like to say that I'd like to urge the Senate to act on House Joint Resolution 22-12 introduced by Representative Tina Sablan in the January session, which would help everyone in our CNMI community that is suffering because of the challenges of this pandemic. That stimulus is something that's already been in their court since January. It is now the end of March. And if we truly are concerned about helping our people, then maybe that's another place that we could act, or that they could act, because we've done our parts in following the rules that we all know that are there. Thank you, Speaker. I yield.
Thank you, Representative Staffler. Representative Patrick, do you still want the floor? Okay, I recognize Representative Lizama.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you, my colleagues. As a retiree, I have experienced what they have just said. We got to follow the law. Taking some money away from the retiree after you give it to them is not nice. I was there. 25% was a big money. So let's not do a shortcut here. Let's do it right. Let's work. I encourage you, go up to the Senate and tell them to pass it. Why do we have to go back and forth? Yes, the retirees are waiting. We got to do our part. We did it from the House. They are not doing what the people want. And I myself, I don't like what they're doing. So I encourage you, go up to the Senate and tell them, please, let's pass this bill so we can give the retirees their bonuses. Thank you. I yield back, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Representative Lizama. Any further discussions? Ready? Ready? Okay. All in favor of the motion to accept Senate communications as made by the floor leader, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, please say nay. The ayes have it. Senate communications are hereby accepted. Senate Communication 22-79 will be referred to the Committee on Ways and Means. Senate Communications 22-80 regarding Senate Joint Resolution 22-06 will be placed on today's resolution calendar for action. Senate Communication 2281 will be referred to the Committee on Ways and Means. Senate Communications 22-84 would also be referred to Ways and Means, and I'd like to encourage the chairman of Ways and Means maybe to call a meeting just to get further clarification on that. And the rest of the Senate communications is for information purposes. Thank you, members. We now move down to item number 8, House Communications, and I recognize the clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Under item 8, House Communications, we have House Communication 22-67 through 22-73.
Thank you, clerk. Any discussions under House Communications? Ready? Okay. We'll move down to item number 9, communications from the Judicial Branch. I recognize the clerk.
Thank you again, Mr. Speaker. Under item 9, Communications from the Judicial Branch, we have Judicial Branch Communication 22-6.
Thank you, clerk. Any discussion under Judicial Branch communications? Ready? Okay. I will refer this communication to the Committee on Ways and Means. Thank you, members. We move down to item number 10, communications from departments and agencies. I recognize the clerk.
Thank you again, Mr. Speaker. On item 10, Communications from departments and agencies, we have one item, Department and Agency Communication 22-48.
Thank you, clerk. Any discussion under item number 10? Ready? This communication will also be referred to the Committee on Ways and Means. Thank you, members. We now move down to item number 11, and I recognize the clerk.
Thank you again, Mr. Speaker. Under item 11, miscellaneous communications, we have three communications, Mr. Speaker. Miscellaneous communication 22-105 to 107.
Thank you, clerk. Any discussion under miscellaneous communications? Ready? All right, thank you, members. We now move down to item number 12, reports of standing committee. I'd like to recognize the clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We have reports of standing committee under item 12. We have 5 committee reports ready for House action.
Thank you, clerk. Quick recess. Before we went on recess, we were under reports of standing committee, and I'd like to recognize the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Under item 12, reports of standing committee. First off is standing committee report number 22-38. And as discussed with your leadership, Mr. Speaker, and because of Governor's Communication 22-112, informing the legislature that he is withdrawing, or my bad, Governor's Communication 22-113, inform the legislature that he is withdrawing Mr. Ramon S. Basa's appointment to the Public Utilities Commission, and simultaneously under Governor's Communication 22-116, informing that the House that he's resubmitting the renomination of Mr. Ramon S. Basa. Therefore, for this reason, Mr. Speaker, I make a motion that we refer Standing Committee Report number 22-38 back to the Committee on PUTC. So move.
Thank you, floor leader. The floor leader has made a motion to send Standing Committee Report 22-38 back to committee for the reasons that he has given regarding the deadline and the resubmittal of the renomination of Mr. Basa. Has been seconded. Any discussion? Ready? Okay. All in favor of the motion offered by the floor leader, please say aye. All opposed, please say nay. The ayes have it. Standing Committee Report number 22-38 is hereby referred back to committee. Floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Next up is Standing Committee Report number 22-39, and it's the same reason as Standing Committee Report 22-38 with regards to the nomination of Mr. Oscar P. Quitugua, and based on the Governor's Communication 22-112, informing the legislature that he is withdrawing Mr. Oscar Patrick Quitugua's appointment to the Commonwealth Public Utilities Commission, and simultaneously under Governor's Communication 22-115, informing the House that he is resubmitting the nomination of Mr. Oscar Patrick Quitugua. Therefore, again, for these reasons, Mr. Speaker, I make a motion that we refer back to the Committee on PUTC, Standing Committee Report number 22-39. So move.
Thank you, floor leader. Motion has been made to send back Standing Committee Report 22-39 for the reasons given regarding the nomination of Mr. Oscar P. Quitugua's nomination. It has been seconded. Any discussion? Ready? All in favor of the motion offered by the floor leader, please say aye. All opposed, please say nay. The ayes have it. Standing Committee Report 22-39 is hereby sent back to committee. Floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Next up is Standing Committee Report number 22-40, reporting on House Bill number 22-4, entitled "To amend the Department of Public Safety's time period to produce police traffic and criminal investigation reports from 10 days to 3 days." Your House Committee on Judicial and Governmental Operation recommends that the House file House Bill number 22-4. Therefore, I make a motion that we file House Bill number 22-4. So move.
A motion has been made offered by the floor leader regarding Standing Committee Report 22-40, which is to file House Bill 22-4, and has been seconded. Any discussion? Recognize Representative Joseph Flores.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, as the author for 22-4, basically this bill, the reason why I introduced it is it's been a practice in the Department of Public Safety that whenever there's an incident or any criminal activity that the officer responded, the police report takes time for them to produce. This bill is basically stating that at least the police officer would do a preliminary investigation report. Is whenever you get involved into an accident, at least they give you 3 working days or any criminal for you to get a copy of the incident report that there's an incident occur from your side, so you can claim it to your insurance. You can start doing the process. And if it takes more than 10 days or 15 days, there's been a practice. Some people go down to records and try to obtain a copy, and the police reports is not done yet. So in having this, will govern the department police officers to do at least the preliminary investigation within 3 working days. I do understand the Attorney General's opinion that there's never a time that they not receive a report, or the time that's lapsed or it's late. The reason behind that is every report that's been forwarded to the Attorney General is an investigative report that's been done, thoroughly investigate. This is only for preliminary investigation for you to start claiming any insurance processing. It's not because of the investigation. The investigation will follow furthermore if the investigation is need to be processed more. That's why whenever you hear it's still under investigation. That's when it comes after the 3 working days. It's for you just to get a preliminary investigation and start claiming your insurance. It's like if you're a victim for burglary. You get a police report and say, hey, go to insurance, I've been burglarized. But if you're going to wait 15 to 20 days, it's the practice here in the cinema. The insurance does not go any further until you provide them with a police report incident. You're not having a police report, you're still waiting for it. And there's times when there's an officer, or let's say an officer gets to entertain you and he goes on leave. And here you are waiting for your report. This will govern at least the police officer before he goes out on leave, at least within 3 working days. At 3 working days, ample time to do a preliminary investigation is more than enough. As a retired police officer for 20 years, 3 days is more than enough. I've been commander of traffic. I always tell my personnel, whenever you entertain a police report, do it. Because if you come tomorrow, it's going to be another incident. You keep adding 1 plus 1 plus 2, end up going to have a stress. You're not going to know which is first. And then you're going to end up not doing that police report. Doing this is going to be mandated that, hey, I have to finish my report within 2 working days before I do anything. And as far as the Civil Service Commission, as far as this, we need to have a guideline for the Department of Public Safety. Yes, there is an intern procedure that you have to do your report with 3 working days. But for nowadays, there's a lot of smart addict officers out there say, sir, according to 9 CMC 1605, I got 10 days. Even if you write me up with within 3 days, it's useless because 9 CMC is stating 10 working days. So I have to produce within 10 working days. But in these 3 working days, if you don't do it, I'm going to discipline you because you're making the Department of Public Safety or even the people out there getting the disadvantage of not getting a police report to cover their insurance or get covered or to get assistance from insurance to start moving on to have their vehicle or start replacing their appliances whatsoever that have been damaged or being a victim. So I'm asking Mr. Speaker, JGO to please reconsider this bill. It's a fundamental instrument for the Department of Public Safety. It's not because the department is going to try to use a record to try to continue suspending officers. It's just to discipline the officers to make sure that the police reports are done in a timely manner. It's not because we're going to use it as a tool for give them a suspension. There's a procedure in the Civil Service Commission before you guys suspend it. You got to be given a written warning. If you still don't comply, that's when they give you a 30-day suspension. And after that, maybe they can give you 30 days if you're still not applying. So this is almost, I think the misinterpret with the Attorney General and the Civil Service, Department of Public Safety agrees to it because he's got to make sure that all police reports are done in a timely manner. That's why, Mr. Speaker, and I would like to request, if it were possible, move this to the bill council so we can vote as a whole. If it dies, it dies. I think I'll be content that we got to remember, some of us here too are victims. We try to pick up a copy of police report. It's not done yet. Come back 3 days later, it's not done. Come back 10 days, still not done yet. So having this, we alleviate more. So we get 3 days, we're going to be expecting a police report within 3 days. So we can start continuing with our daily life, with our coverage, with our insurance. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Representative Flores, and any member from the committee. I recognize Vice Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Representative Flores. You're right. You brought up a lot of great points, and possibly the intent that the AG's office and the Civil Service Commission have brought up might be seeing it a different way. And I believe we spoke a little bit about this after that committee meeting. And you're right that a lot of the cops are bringing up issues that, according to 9 CMC, the biggest concern that came from the Civil Service Commission and the Attorney General's office was more that a lot of police officers will be disciplined on purpose, overloading specific officers that they just don't want in the force, and they would use this against them. They cited that the Civil Service Commission under the Northern Marianas Administrative Code subsection 10-20.2-257 and the personal civil service rules and regulations, disciplinary action. And you mentioned that they can go that route, but unfortunately, they were totally against this legislation. I support your argument, and we even discussed this bill prior to the committee meeting, but the committee found that with the position from the Civil Service Commission and Attorney General's office brought up a stronger point. The intent was to leave it in committee, but the committee members had voted that it be filed. So the only action we can really take today is to move to file this legislation or move it back to committee. We cannot move it up to the calendar, and I leave it up to the members. But the committee's position is in accordance to the Civil Service Commission's concerns and the civil service, the OPM's concerns and the AG's concerns. The only other option is to send it back to committee. If you would like that option, I leave it up to the members. But at this point, the report is to file the legislation. If we act on the report, we'll be filing the legislation. Other than that, we can send it back to committee. And I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Vice Speaker. Any further discussions from the members? With
So what, Mr. Speaker, we're gonna,
recognize.
for we return it back to the committee for further, because yesterday I gave a quote to Civil Service Director, and then I started to explain, and she was seeing it in a different way what I was explaining to her. But I haven't got any information. She says when get back to me whether her comment, she may maybe change it or maybe she might stick with it. But I will request we'll give it a little bit of time before we put this into file.
Okay,
Mr.
I have,
Speaker.
let me call for a quick recess real quick. Before we went on recess, we were still under Standing Committee Report 22-40 under discussion, and I'd like to recognize the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And after a lengthy deliberation and at the request of the author of the bill, I withdraw my previous motion and now motion that we refer back Standing Committee Report number 22-40 back to the Committee on Judiciary and Governmental Operations. So move.
Thank you, floor leader. The floor leader has withdrawn his first motion and offered a motion that we send Standing Committee Report 22-40, reporting on House Bill 22-4, back to the Committee on JGO, and it has been seconded. Any discussions? Ready? Okay, all in favor to send back Standing Committee Report 22-40 back to the JGO Committee, please say aye. All opposed, please say nay. The ayes have it. The motion is carried, and Standing Committee Report number 22-40 is hereby referred back to the Committee on JGO. Floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Next up is Standing Committee Report number 22-41, reporting on House Bill number 22-20, entitled to amend Title II, Division 2, Chapter 1 of the Commonwealth Code to grant the Commonwealth Ports Authority, CPA, Ports Police, the Law Enforcement Authority, to clarify the Commonwealth Ports Authority, Ports Police Authority, power and recognition as a Sinai law enforcement agency. Your Committee on Judicial and Governmental Operation recommends that the House pass the bill in the form of House Bill number 22-20, House Substitute 1. I move for its adoption.
Thank you, Floor Leader. A motion has been made to adopt Standing Committee Report 22-41 and has been seconded. Any discussion on the floor? Ready? All in favor to adopt Standing Committee Report 22-41, please say aye. All opposed, please say nay. The ayes have it. Standing Committee Report 22-41 is hereby adopted. Floor Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Last on Standing Committee Report is Standing Committee Report number 22-42, reporting on House Bill number 22-39, entitled To Amend Title 6, Division 6, Chapter 5, Witnesses, by adding a new subsection 6503, witness to child outcry of abuse, and for other purposes. Your House Committee on Judicial and Governmental Operation recommends that the House pass the bill in the form of House Bill number 22-39, House Substitute 1. I move for its adoption.
Thank you, Floor Leader. A motion has been made to adopt Standing Committee Report 22-42 and has been seconded. Any discussions on the floor? Ready? Okay. All in favor to adopt Standing Committee Report 22-42, please say aye. All opposed, please say nay. The ayes have it. Standing Committee Report 22-42 is hereby adopted. Thank you, members. Thank you, Floor Leader. We now move down to item number 13, reports of special and conference committees. We have none. Item number 14, unfinished business. We have none. Item number 15, resolution calendar, and I'd like to recognize the Floor Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. First up on resolution calendar is House Resolution number 22-16, a House resolution to recognize and acknowledge Mr. Pedro Joaquin Tudela for his tremendous contribution in protecting, promoting, propagating, and preserving our native plant species and natural environment in the Commonwealth, and for his passion, devotion, and commitment in his workplace. I move for its adoption.
Thank you, Floor Leader. A motion has been made to adopt House Resolution 22-16 and has been seconded. Any discussions on the floor? Ready? Okay. All in favor to adopt House Resolution number 22-16, please say aye. All opposed, please say nay. The ayes have it. House Resolution 22-16 is hereby adopted. Floor Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Next is House Joint Resolution number 22-14, a House Joint Resolution to honor and commend Mr. Nick K. Nishikawa, General Manager of Hyatt Regency Saipan, for his utmost commitment, dedication, and contribution towards the Sinai tourism industry since July of 2008. I move for its adoption.
Thank you, Floor Leader. A motion has been made to adopt House Joint Resolution 22-14 and has been seconded. Any discussions on the floor? Ready? I recognize the clerk to please call the roll.
Representative Tata? Yes. Representative Fatao?
Yes.
Representative Sheila Babalta?
Yes.
Representative Joel Komatsu?
Okay.
Representative Vicente Komatsu?
Yes.
Representative Flores?
Yes.
Representative Guerrero? Representative Lizama?
Yes.
Representative Mangofnia?
Unggan.
Representative Manglonia?
Yes.
Representative Probst?
Yes.
Representative John Paul Sablan?
Ngan.
Representative Sue Nicolas?
Ngan.
Representative Staffler?
Yes.
Representative Young Tamay?
Aware.
Mr. Speaker?
Yes.
Mr. Speaker, all 16 members present voted yes.
Thank you, Clerk. With all 16 members voting yes, House Joint Resolution 22-14 is hereby adopted. Floor Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Next is Commemorative Resolution number 22-9, a House commemorative resolution to congratulate and honor all women in the Commonwealth as we celebrate their contributions and achievements during the month of March 2022, proclaimed as Sinai Women's Month and March 8 as International Women's Day. I move for its adoption.
Thank you, floor leader. A motion has been made to adopt commemorative resolution number 22-9 and has been seconded. Any discussions on the floor? Ready? Okay, all in favor to adopt commemorative resolution number 22-9, please say aye. All opposed, please say nay. The ayes have it. Commemorative resolution number 22-9 is hereby adopted. Floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Next is commemorative resolution number 22-10, a House commemorative resolution to honor and commend Mr. David Mangarero Sablan for his selfless dedication and countless contributions to the Commonwealth of the Northern Mariana Islands. I move for its adoption.
Thank you, floor leader. A motion has been made to adopt commemorative resolution number 22-10 and has been seconded. Any discussions on the floor? Ready? Okay, all in favor to adopt commemorative resolution number 22-10, please say aye. All opposed, please say nay. The ayes have it. Commemorative resolution number 22-10 is hereby adopted. Floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Last on resolution calendar is Senate Joint Resolution 22-06, entitled Requesting the Office of Personnel Management, the Secretary of Finance, and the Civil Service Commission to work together to have the WGIs or merit increase assessed and processed for the civil service employees that were furloughed and later returned to work. I move for its adoption.
Thank you for that. A motion has been made by the floor leader to adopt Senate Joint Resolution 22-06 and has been seconded. Any discussions on the floor? Ready. I now recognize the clerk to please call the roll.
Representative Adda? Representative Atal?
Yes.
Representative Sheila Babalta?
Yes.
Representative Joel Komatsu?
Good.
Representative Vicente Komatsu?
Yes.
Representative Flores?
Yes.
Representative Guerrero? Representative Lizama? Representative Mangotnia? Representative Manglotnia?
Yes.
Representative Probst?
Ungan. Sorry.
Representative Jampo Sablan?
Ungan.
Representative San Nicolas? Representative Staffler?
Ungan.
Representative Yankama?
Aware.
Mr. Speaker?
Aware.
Mr. Speaker, all 16 members present voted yes.
Thank you, clerk. With all 16 members present voting yes, the Senate Joint Resolution 22-06 hereby adopted. Thank you, members. We now move down to bill calendar, and I recognize the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Under bill calendar, first off, I want to make a motion that we suspend Rule 7, Section 9, Committee Reports and Other Documents, and Rule 9, Section 9 and 10. So move.
A motion has been made by the floor leader to suspend pertinent rules and has been seconded. Any discussion on the floor? All right, ready. All in favor? Okay. Sorry about that. Okay, all in favor by the motion to suspend pertinent rules, please say aye. All opposed, please say nay. Motion carries. Floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. First, under bill calendar is House Bill number 22-95, a bill for an act to amend the Appropriations Act of Fiscal Year 2022, Public Law 22-08, to establish a business unit and properly fund the retirees' bonus and for other purposes. I move for its passage.
Thank you, floor leader. A motion has been made to pass House Bill number 22-95 and has been seconded. Discussions on the floor. Recognize Representative Lipan Guerrero.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, as I illustrated earlier, again, acting on this 2295, we know that 2291 was rejected and sent to the Comfrey Committee. By acting on this, it's going to be rejected again, Mr. Speaker. I highly recommend, Mr. Speaker, that we refer this bill to the Committee on Ways and Means and have both councils, the House and Senate, meet to discuss and come up with a solution. I think if both councils, the Senate and the House, sits and address any concern. Maybe this is the way to get this thing resolved. Because if we vote on this and it gets rejected again at the Senate, we're not moving forward. So let's use our council to mediate and come to an understanding in how quickly can we give this $1,000 to the retiree. So with that, Mr. Speaker, if we're gonna put this to vote, I will vote no, because it's not gonna solve the problem. Think that the council should be sitting with the Senate council to come to a solution, because it's going to end up the same way as 2291. And that's my take on this. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Representative Lipon Guerrero. Any further discussion?
Privilege, Mr. Speaker.
Recognize Representative Patrick San Nicolas.
Mr. Speaker and members, there's no concern raised by the settlement fund with regards to manner in which the bonus is going to be paid, which brings me to a very highly concerned that pushing this legislation through to this house will end up like the previous attempt. Mr. Speaker, it's an exercise in futility and the retirees that will again be left hanging. So for House Bill number 22-95, my vote is no. I yield, Mr. Speaker, and thank you.
Thank you, Representative San Nicolas. I recognize Representative Donald Manglonia.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you, colleagues, for airing your concerns. 2295 is very similar to 2291. The Senate had already, when they sent it back, they agreed on the areas in which we were to withdraw from. The only concern, the only contention that we had was a 100% reprogramming authority, which they took out in the Senate Joint Resolution 22-09. So this is the amendment to the 2291 to address the 100% reprogramming authority. That was the main difference between 2291 and 95. And so even if we were to send this to the committee and have councils communicate with each other, why do we have to let the councils do it when we are open to do it with the Senate and their conferees? We might get the same action with the House councils and the Senate councils, where each one will come back and say this is not something that they can agree with. This is something that we're open to, but not the other side. And so we're going to be back to where we're at today, and that's having to go back and forth. If the Senate doesn't want to meet with the House conferees for whatever reason, our hope is that 2295 and the appropriations and the account that we've created through 2295 will be something that the Senate can agree on and vote to pass it, not having to meet conferees or not having to meet with the House, but it's something that they can agree with. And when it gets transmitted to the Senate, they can easily vote on it and it goes to the governor. And so even, if we don't have if we fail to meet as conferees, then this is another approach that we can take that we hope that the Senate can agree to because we've already identified the additional 500 which they proposed, which the Senate proposed, and we support. Um, it was just a matter of finding where to get those funds, and I believe we did that in 2295. And so I encourage all the other members to support this legislation, and let's hope that the Senate can agree to the amendments we made to 2291. And I hope that those who have concerns about it can, as Rep. Lazama mentioned, talk to your Senate counterparts and see what areas that they may have concerns with, that we can answer prior to them acting on it when it gets transmitted. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Mangonia. I recognize again Representative San Nicola.
Thank you, Chairman. My concern is why didn't the House initiate this? Why? Because we are the appropriating authority. We have that. We have that. Why didn't the House appropriate this? Why didn't the House initiate this kind of appropriation for the bonuses for retirees? Why do we have to wait for the Senate to do a joint resolution and then it comes here, different story. It goes up there, different story. It comes down here, different story. It's been 3 months already. It's been 3 months or so that we are waiting for this to be disbursed for our retirees out there. One of our constituents down there in the island of Tinian passed away waiting for his $500. He passed away. Knock on wood, God forbid that this kind of unfortunate events will not happen again. When are we going to disburse this? When are we going to give the retirees? Mr. Speaker, I yield. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative San Nicolas and Representative Staffler. You raised your hand earlier. Or, yes, recognize.
Thank you, Speaker. I will keep it brief. I guess when I hear what you say, colleague, it makes me think about the budgeting process, which we are about to begin again in the Ways and Means. And it makes me think that if this was a plan since the beginning, then it should have been included in the budget ever since. And it wasn't. And so now that it is coming up, as in the process that it did, we have to follow this process to make it legal. If it was part of the original plan from the beginning, then it would have been part of the Schedule A and Schedule B and Schedule C that we received last year, but it wasn't. And so now we are trying to find the right process to do it. And you're right, we all have been waiting for 3 months because the Senate has House Joint Resolution 22-12, which could address stimulus for all people, including the retirees. And so we do support the retirees. We just must follow this process so that we don't have to keep repeating and going in a circle. So thank you.
Hold on. Recognize Representative Magofnia.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And thank you, colleagues, Nicholas. You raised a very good question. But I think the question should be directed to our governor and not the chairman of Ways and Means. It was the governor who made the promise to the retirees. Why didn't he consider consulting with the legislature, with the House, so that we can make sure that any of these issues would have been discussed and we wouldn't have to be going through all this back and forth with the Senate? So I think the question should be addressed to the governor. Why didn't he come and talk to the House and not go through the Senate joint resolution? Thank you.
Not Mr. Speaker, if I may,
Hold on, I recognize the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would love to chime in also on this discussion and debate. Let's go back in history. When the first Senate Joint Resolution came here, it is the position of this august body that having to give the retirees their bonuses is not through a joint resolution, and it is still the position of this august body. And when we presented a legislation to the House, the Senate had all the time to entertain that House bill that we referred and transmitted to them, and included more amendments. It came back to the House, and we disagree with the 100% reprogramming given to the governor. Later down the line, we are now talking to the very Senate joint resolution now that is before us. And guess what? The Senate agreed, and they took out the 100% reprogramming authority that they have amended our bill when we sent it to them. So what does that tell us? They're in agreement with us with the issue at hand. Now, our position here, and it's still the position that a joint resolution is not the course of action or the proper course of action to provide bonuses to our retirees. It's amending our budget law and creating that unit and providing giving the flexibility to the governor to put funds there so that he can release these bonuses. So you know what? We should be protecting our institutional powers given by the Constitution here in this very august body. We shouldn't be cheerleaders and cheer the Senate with their authority. Let's do the right thing, members of this House. We are given that institutional power that any appropriation starts from here and not from the Senate. Let's abide to the Constitution, and please, let's support this House Bill number 22-95. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, floor leader, Representative San Nicolas for the last time. You yield. Okay. Any other member? Recognize Vice Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I thank the floor leader for bringing up those points. It's true, and if the administration does believe that a joint resolution can move monies and act on a budget, then why don't we practice that come April 2nd? We get the money from the the budget proposal from the administration, and we just pass it by a House joint resolution and have the Senate adopt that joint resolution so that the administration don't have any say in how we appropriate the funds of the CNMI. If that's the process that we're gonna believe that's the proper way of doing it, then let's practice. Let's do it. April 2nd. We'll get the budget on this Friday. By Sunday, the House should have a version of how the money should be spent in the CNMI. And the administration won't have a say whatsoever. If the agreement that a joint resolution can address the budget process, then let's practice this fiscal year for 2022. Let's not give them that option to line item the budget and just pass it by a joint resolution. If that's what they believe is the proper way to do it, then let's do it and not give them the opportunity to line item anything that we believe and the Senate believes should function for the CNMI government. But we're better than that. We know that we have to fund every program. Matter of fact, the House over the years have sacrificed the legislative body to address the needs of other entities within the central government. Even the municipalities, the legislatures sacrifice themselves so the municipalities can get additional monies. So let's do this the right way. Obviously, the Planning and Budgeting Act, it's older than most of us in this chamber, but it's still active today, and there's a reason why they included those specific languages so that we protect ourselves and they know that the future generations will be able to address the financial situation through the House of Representatives. That's why we have a bicameral legislature. If we didn't have a bicameral legislature, then the Senate can introduce the budget. They can pass the budget. But we're a bicameral legislature. The first is here in the House. We should do this the right way the first time and get it done and over with. They know, the Senate knows very well that we need the business unit to be created with a funding source in it. Ask them about the 25% monies that were addressing the retirees pre-$88 million FEMA loan. We had to include the business unit with $1,000 in the last budget of the 21st legislature so that the 25% can be addressed through reprogramming authority. And they know that. So if they're going to say that the council is right in utilizing 19-4, look at 19-4 and understand 19-4. It gave 100% reprogramming authority for the remainder of that fiscal year, which was only 5 days. And that's to address a 10% cost share for the central government for Typhoon Sodelor. That's not a comparable joint resolution as what Senate Joint Resolution 19 or 22-4 or 22-9 is doing. 22-9 is allowing them to reprogram, create a business unit, and use that business unit. You can't do that. We all know that. That's why we ran for the House, so that we can control the purse. We can address the issues of the central government. We make all our decisions here in the House through our Budget Act. It gets to the Senate, it gets amended. What happens when we disagree? We go to conference committee and we address that. I'll bet any member here that if this was the budget and we were going to go to shutdown in a week, we would be sitting down in that conference committee for 24 hours to address the differences. Why? Because it's going to affect us directly. Each and every one of us, if this was the budget legislation that we're worried about, for every day the government shut down, none of us will get paid. And most of our government employees won't get paid either, because there's no true definition of what essential employees are. The saddest thing is the Legislative Bureau is going to be probably here with every single member, and none of them are going to get paid. We went through this in the 17th legislature. So if this was a big concern, then we would have been sitting down 3-4 weeks ago already addressing 91. But obviously it's not a serious concern because we came up with another joint resolution. So we got to understand, floor leader laid out the history. We all agreed unanimously that 22-4 wasn't the right way to do it. We all unanimously agreed that the 100% reprogramming authority shouldn't be there. Look at the record. We all voted to reject the version that the Senate sent down to the House. Senate Joint Resolution 22-9 agreed that they shouldn't get the 100%. But it's still the wrong vehicle to get the money to the retirees. We still need to go back and amend the budget law to include the business unit and put a dollar figure in it. And by including, even if we put $1 in there, the governor still has 25% reprogramming authority. $2.6 million of whatever, $104 million is not 25%. So he still has that authority. So let's act on the legislation. Let's get it up to the Senate. Maybe they agree because the 100% is not there anyways anymore. So let's do that. Let's do our due diligence and do it the right way for the first round, not the second round or the third round or 6 months from now. But let's make sure for members of Ways and Means, include that language in the Budget Act so that we don't have to be fighting over a joint resolution. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Vice Speaker. Any further discussions? Ready? Okay, Clerk, please call the roll.
Representative Abda?
Yes.
Representative Fatal?
Yes.
Representative Sheila Babauta?
Yes.
Representative Joel Komatsu?
Unggan.
Representative Vicente Komatsu?
Yes.
Representative Flores? Representative Guerrero? Representative Lizama?
Yes.
Representative Magofnia?
Unggan.
Representative Manglona?
Yes.
Representative Probst?
For our retirees, 100% yes.
Representative John Paul Sablan?
Unggan.
Representative San Nicolas?
No.
Representative Staffler?
Unggan.
Representative Young Tamay?
Yes.
Representative Flores?
Yes.
Representative Guerrero. Mr. Speaker.
Yes.
Mr. Speaker, 14 members voted yes, 1 member voted no, and 5 members are absent.
Thank you, Clerk, with 14 voting yes and 1 no and 5 absent. House Bill 22-95 hereby passes the House. Floor Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Next on bill calendar is House Bill number 22-20, House Substitute 1, a bill for an act to clarify the Commonwealth Ports Authority, Ports Police Authority, power, and recognition as a semi-law enforcement agency. I move for its passage.
Thank you, Floor Leader. A motion has been made to pass House Bill number 22-20, House Substitute 1, and has been seconded. Any discussions on the floor? Ready? Clerk, please call the roll.
Representative Adda. Representative Atal.
Yes.
Representative Sheila Babalta.
Yes.
Representative Joel Komatsu.
Hungan.
Representative Vicente Komatsu.
Yes.
Representative Flores.
Yes.
Representative Lizama.
Yes.
Representative Magofnia. Representative Manglonia.
Yes.
Representative Probst. Representative John Paul Sablan.
Hungan.
Representative St. Nicholas. Representative St. Nicholas. Representative Staffler.
Ungan.
Representative Yantamay.
Aware.
Mr. Speaker.
Yes.
Mr. Speaker, all 15 members present voted yes.
Thank you, Clerk. With 15 members present voting yes, House Bill number 22-20, House Substitute 1, hereby passes the House. Floor Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Last on bill calendar for today's session is House Bill number 22-39, House Substitute 1, a bill for an act to amend Title 6, Division 6, Chapter 5, Witnesses by adding a new subsection 6503, Witness to Child Outcry of Abuse and for other purposes. I move for its passage.
Thank you, Floor Leader. A motion has been made by the Floor Leader to pass House Bill number 22-39, House Substitute 1, and has been seconded. Any discussions on the floor? Ready? Clerk, please call the roll.
Representative Adda. Representative Atal.
Yes.
Representative Sheila Babalta.
Yes.
Representative Joel Komatsu.
Hungan.
Representative Vicente Komatsu.
Yes.
Representative Flores.
Yes.
Representative Zama.
Yes.
Representative Magofnia. Representative Manglonia.
Yes.
Representative Probst. Representative John Paul Sablan.
Hungan.
Representative St. Nicholas. Representative Staffler.
Ungan.
Representative Yantamay.
Aware.
Mr. Speaker.
Yes.
Mr. Speaker, all 15 members present voted yes.
Thank you, Clerk. With all 15 members present voting yes, House Bill number 22-39, House Substitute 1, hereby passes the House. All right, thank you, members. We now move down to item number 17, miscellaneous business. Floor is open. Ready, members? Ready? Okay, we will now move down to item number 18, announcements. Recognize Representative Donald Manglonia.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This announcement is in regards to the Ways and Means Committee, and that by April 1st, we should be getting the governor's proposed budget for fiscal year 2023. And so I would like to let all members, or I guess the entire House, know that if there are any organizations in which we have not met with in the past, or if you know of any organizations or entities that would like to come before the committee to reach out to any of the committee members so that we can put them in our schedule in preparation for the upcoming budget hearings, which should begin next month after we adopt the concurrent resolutions. And so I know last fiscal year we focused a lot on the departments. And so if there's any agencies that we've missed, or if you know of any agencies that would like an audience with the committee members, to let any of the members know so that we can include them in our budget hearings. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman Manglonia. Any other member? Ready? We now move down to adjournment, and I recognize the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I now make a motion that we adjourn, subject to your call as chair. So move.
Thank you, floor leader. A motion has been made to adjourn the session, has been seconded. Any discussions? All in favor of the motion, please say aye. All opposed, stay. The ayes have it. Session's adjourned. Thank you, members.